Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson, and joining me in the studio is a representative from our favorite nonprofit organization in town, the Brighton Chamber of Commerce. We have Moni Phipps. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob.
So, Moni, you are the social media manager for the Chamber, as well as the manager of the Farmers Market.
That's correct.
So how long have you been doing those two gigs?
I started the Farmers Market during the pandemic.
Great timing. What a way to get thrown into I'm sure a very chill, organized, smooth type
Super
of
organized
process. Yeah.
Yeah. I was working for SELCRA, Southeastern Livingston County Recreation Authority. I was their receptionist, administrative assistant, and we were all laid off, and PM called up to SELCRA and said, we need a farmers market manager. And I said, I love farmers markets. I would love to do it. And I had no idea what was involved with running a farmers market.
What do you think is the first thing that people think of when they think of farmers market?
I think the first thing they think of is produce and fresh vegetables, right from
That's
the
what I
farm.
was going to say, was vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
What is a farmers market?
It's local vendors that have homemade, handmade, or homegrown their objects that they want to sell to the community. So it's usually local. And for our farmers market, it's only things that are homemade, handmade in Michigan. So we have one exception. We have a cheese guy who mongers his cheese in Wisconsin and then brings it over. I don't know if that's the right term either. But yeah, so everything's got to be local. You can't buy stuff from Florida and sell it at our market.
So you can't have it can't be something where you get a bunch of knickknacks and trinkets off the boat from China and take them there and sell it. You can't do that.
Right. There's no wholesale.
No wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about the history of the farmers market here in Brighton. So between 40 and 50 years, the farmers market's been running. What was it like before, during, and then after COVID? So I know you started during COVID, but did you attend before COVID?
All the time. I used to always go with my mom. We have a farming background in our family. So I would go to the Howell Farmers Market and Brighton. My mom loves fresh corn. Like, she will ask the farmer when they picked it that morning. She will only eat it if it's that morning.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people are like that with corn on the cob. So we would go even when I was a kid, and always knew, like, you can get hand-milled soap, and that started in Brighton. And I was a swimmer, so you always had, like, really itchy skin, and that soap didn't, like, make your skin even more itchy.
That's
cool. Before all the chemicals were added to it.
So during COVID, I'm sure there were some challenges, as everyone, including myself, didn't really know what they should be doing or shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So talk to me about what that was like, kind of jumping in and organizing that and getting that into production for the first year.
I had one farm that kind of took me under their wing, and they kind of were like, you can do it, you can start it. They didn't even authorize for farmers markets to be like a legit thing for the essential products until probably the beginning of April. So I started in April, and I kind of had like a month to contact all these vendors. Everything was ran through the Michigan Farmers Market Association. It's called MIFMA. And they finally realized that was an essential product. At first, we could only sell, it was food and soaps. So the people who had handmade crafts and artisan things, they were not allowed to sell at the first few markets, which caused an uproar. It was tough because they were not considered essential products.
Yeah.
So the people at MIFMA were wonderful, and this one farm that took me under their wing, she was just a huge resources. We had to put tents 6 feet away from each other, which is kind of why I still am used to spacing out the farmers market like that. You had to have 6 feet in between the tents, even though there was rules like you could only have one person looking at an item if you were going to buy like a homemade cinnamon roll or something. They had to wait in line. It was tough.
I would imagine what did that do for the following year for the market? And how did that evolve to where we are now, to where it's fully open and it's kind of like one of the markets from Aladdin, where it's kind of no holds barred, everyone can be everywhere? Is it like that?
Yeah, it is like that. Into 2021, we still had to do that, where we spaced everybody out, and then people couldn't give samples. So I have one of my favorite people are called, can I say their name?
Of course, promote them.
They're called the Cheesecake Ladies.
Okay.
They make the best cheesecake. And they would give samples, and that's a huge part of what you're going to buy.
Sure.
And for a while there, they couldn't give samples because you had to take your mask down and take, a bite or a sip or whatever. And they couldn't give samples. So when samples opened up, people got really excited. So we weren't allowed to do that until maybe the end of 2021.
Okay. Were people given under the table samples?
Yes.
Like just turning their back and like,
Yes.
of course.
It was it was a thing because you want.
Just don't tell the governor.
Right.
Be all right.
It was exciting. Yeah.
I would imagine so if I'm not mistaken, like when you look at a business and think about how, especially a small business evolves, sometimes a lot of it is going to trade shows and farmers markets and getting your product out there. And to be able to have to stop one of your main lines of distribution for, a year or 2 years is very taxing.
Right.
And imagine a lot of those, I would imagine there's a lot of businesses that used to go to the farmers market that ended up closing shop during COVID. So having all of that stopped is difficult. But thankfully now we're in 2023 and we're on the other side of that. So we have a bit of a new challenge this year with the Streetscape project and some construction that's going on in wonderful downtown Brighton. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about how that's going to change and modify the farmers market this year.
Well, this year, it's hard to get back there to the municipal lot. So it's the same thing. You just have to be patient and, if you're from the area, to trust that the back roads are open right now and the detour signs and parks. So that's what we're having trouble with. When you think about Main Street, it's really not that many parking spots. Maybe 30, something like that. Yeah. When I go downtown, I'm not sure if you guys do that too, but when you go downtown, you're like, I'm not going to park on the street usually. And if you do, you got a parallel. So you think about all the people who are going to get out. So that was a major concern. But there still is plenty of parking. We make our vendors park closer to the lot by the railroad tracks so that customers can park closer. I mean, it's going to be great when it's open, but I do think people still love the farmers market and they're still coming downtown when maybe they wouldn't be. Some of the businesses right now say, we're going to kill 3 birds with one stone and we're going to go to Omalali and the Imagination Station. Now we're going to go get something to eat. So.
Yeah, it's just a change. So is the location of the farmers market, where is it going to be held this year?
It's at 200 North 1st Street, which is the municipal parking lot by City Hall and the Imagination Station.
Is that by Lynn's on 1st?
Yeah, right there.
All right. And then where is that? So last year it was just they closed the downtown strip every Saturday. Is that right? And they had it there?
Just the municipal parking lot.
Oh, okay.
So what it is we've had some trouble every year. It's because people are being responsible and they leave their cars in that parking lot overnight. But there are some signs that say your car will be towed if you are here past 4 a.m. So I always work with Brighton PD as well a lot too. I always make them salsa in the fall because they're so good to me. But, those people are trying to be responsible, but we have to tow their cars because vendors start getting into that parking lot at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's good business for Corrigan, I'm sure. So.
And Miss Bonnie comes to sit with me every Saturday, and you pass out dog treats.
I love it. That's great.
The queen of town.
Absolutely. She's tremendous. One of my all-time favorite people.
Yeah, me too.
I love her. So what is your favorite thing about the farmers market?
My favorite thing is really to kind of talk to the farmers. So one of the big things that we do is I have to inspect the farms. So I come out to your farm that you say you're growing it. You know what I mean? You're not buying it at Eastern Market. You're not bringing it to the farmers market. So I did not start that the first year. And then I went to CJ Turner's, who is Bentley Farms, and I saw his corn crops. So then you're like, well, what's going to be good this weekend? So I get to and I know that these people grew that stuff themselves. That's my favorite part. And I'm excited for when a business moves on and like they're starting a brick and mortar, like Captain's on Main. He started with a food truck in 2020. You know what I mean? Same thing with the soap vendor. Now they're selling at other stores. That's my favorite part. They're kind of getting a start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like and when I guess I'm a farmer's market nerd because once you start like researching other companies and you're like, we started at farmers markets and you're like, that's great. And now, it's at Kroger's or whatever, something like that.
It's a market test.
It is.
It's a market test to see how well people are going to respond to what you have. It's not totally inclusive in terms of if it doesn't work well at the farmer's market, that means it's never going to work well, but it's a really good litmus test to see if people enjoy what you're putting out.
Right. And there's a huge difference in crowd that comes through. I set up a tent that we have, it's like information. I have information about Selcra. I have information about food assistance programs. And and we have dog treats. Bonnie. Corrigan loves to hand out the dog treats because everybody brings their dog, and not everybody, but dogs are welcome as long as they're well behaved. But you just talk to people and they're like, I love this. Where's this vendor? And it's a really great community thing. People love it.
That's great. And is there any tips or things that people should be aware of as they're navigating to the farmers market this year?
Tips for how to get there?
Just tips in general, things that might be different, or things that they should be mindful of. Obviously, the construction and
right. The construction
and the traffic's a bit different. A bit's putting it mildly.
It's a challenge right now. It's kind of neat to just talk to the person who makes your item.
Yeah.
I think that's the best part. If you're interested in it, we have new gluten-free vendors, which is a big thing. And they'll talk to you about why they use this product in this. I have one lady, she's making little heart-shaped biscuits right now. And if you want this to be your business, this is how you start it. This is a good way for people to do that.
Is it wise to bring cash?
It is wise to bring cash. A lot of vendors do take alternative methods like Venmo, PayPal, any of that stuff, but they prefer cash, and we are very close to a bank. So we tell people that a lot. There are a lot of vendors who take only cash.
Yeah, the 3% fees add up over time.
It's huge.
It's wild. So anything else that I'm missing on the farmers market that the folks ought to know about?
Just the one thing I'm kind of passionate about is that we accept food assistance programs. It's called SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition. It's a supplemental nutrition program that comes from the government. It's a way for people to buy fresher produce, fresh bread. They can buy food, and it's a debit card that's provided from the government based on low income. The only thing that they can't necessarily buy is prepared food. So you can't buy a cup of coffee, but you can buy coffee beans from Good Sense Coffee.
Okay.
It's kind of complicated, but lots of people have it. It used to be called like WIC, or it's a bridge card.
Okay.
So people can buy same thing where they met the farmer, and we have a lot of customers who do. So we can accept that. And also Project Fresh, same thing. It's fresh food programs that come from Michigan, state of Michigan, that they're trying to get.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be taking, I'm sure, a lot of as you're running the social media for the chamber, so you'll be giving everyone updates on the farmers market as it progresses through the summer, I'm sure.
I do.
All right. Excellent. You're making some good reels. You guys on TikTok yet? Start
Not
doing
yet.
some farmers market dances, go viral?
We have not. With the reels and the dances, I'm not 100%, not there yet to share it more than I already do.
We got to get Bonnie in a TikTok video. That thing will go viral.
I'm thinking about it.
All right.
Let's think about how we can do this.
All right, we'll figure it out. So one other question that I had that springs to mind is is the vendors. So do you have the same vendors coming back every year? If so, who are they?
We have several vendors who come back every year. One of them is Ignite Donuts. This is their first year. We have a farm. This is the big thing on TikTok, this dehydrated candy. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
You haven't seen it? It's very strange. It's dehydrated, so it kind of puffs up. So they're doing Skittles and like peach rings and stuff like that. It's very different if you're a candy person. And I have several bakers and then my farms. Right now, I do not have a soap vendor that comes back every weekend, which is kind of a popular thing. It doesn't have all the chemicals, the sulfates and stuff in it. I'm trying to think. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. I was more so like thinking about like how many vendors can people expect to see there typically?
It's between 35 and 50. So it varies a lot because you don't have to sell every weekend. So we say a seasonal vendor, they sell for all 26 weeks. An annual vendor, can't call it annual because we're not an annual event.
Sure. But
the farms definitely come because they've got starter plants right now, and then in the end of the season, they've got pumpkins and corn stalks.
Okay.
We have, like I said, we have a baker. His name's In the Mitten. He makes the most amazing graham crackers. They taste kind of like shortbread. He's looking to be a brick and mortar. Same thing. He's there every year. It's been there for several years.
Okay.
Coming up, we have some food trucks. We do have Cousin's Maine Lobster. You may have seen them on
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Yep. They love coming to the farmers market. I'll tell you what, Brighton 8:15, they're there getting their lobster bisque. It really does have.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. What other food trucks are there?
They kind of come and go throughout the
It just
season.
depends. Okay.
It really does, because for a food truck, because we're 8 to 1, they can do another event in the afternoon. So it depends on where we are in location. So a lot of people contact me. I do have a guy who sells hot dogs every weekend. His is called Advanced Concessions. He also is doing pulled pork this year. He comes every weekend.
Okay. So Cousins Maine Lobster, they come every weekend.
Once a month.
Oh, once a month.
Yep.
I see. Okay. And then people are standing in line for lobster biscuit in the morning. That's awesome.
They are.
And the first date of the market, when's it starting?
It's the first weekend in May, all the way to the last weekend in October.
Oh, so we're already in it.
This is going to be week 4. Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. And has it been I guess what's it been like the first couple of weeks now that we're a few weeks into it?
The very first market was pretty packed and steady like we're used to seeing, but then the last couple have been a little down. I think the construction on Grand River has something to do with that. It's difficult even for me to get there.
Yeah.
We always see, and we don't have a lot of produce right now. Like I said, it's lettuce right now. It's going to be coming up this weekend. Then we'll start to see asparagus and strawberries, and then it comes fast and furious with the squash and all the rest of the fruit, so that's when people come in there to go buy their stuff, and that it goes quick.
I love it. Fast and Furious with the squash. That needs to be the name of this episode when you guys put it out.
No.
I think it's awesome. That should absolutely be the name of the show. Change the whole podcast to that name. That'd be great. All right. Anything else before we wrap up?
No.
All right.
Yes, I will.
That's a great way to end the show. And I got Johnny's approval from the booth, so... All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching this week's episode. Check out the Farmers Market every Saturday morning downtown Brighton. We'll see you next week. Take care.